Hey, we're talking about diversity in movies and TV up next on Geek Out SA. Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream. And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Friday and we're having fun. Still can't get used to the new
It's too short.
intro.
It's like we're grooving.
I know we're grooving and it's like time to go.
It throws you right in there.
Well, that was what you said we needed. You said the other one was too long, so
we gotta shorten it a bit.
people's attention spans are about this big.
Yeah, that's right. We shorten the intro, but the show is still.
We have so much to say. It's like really hard not to keep talking
It's really
and
hard.
talking and talking.
It's really hard. Like I do another show on Thursdays with my buddy. It's called Pinche and the Gringo, and we talk about news and politics on there, which we don't talk about on here. We talk about news, geeky news.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about diversity in movies and TV.
Which could maybe get into the politics a little. We'll have to.
Yeah.
We try to be careful because it's a family-friendly show.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm an educator, so I'm not actually allowed to have an opinion. It's part of my job description. So, so I just have to be really careful, and especially because sometimes kids watch, and they're impressionable, and it's not necessarily my job to help them along with their opinions, although that's kind of how the world works, regardless. Yeah. You know, whoever you come across kind of moves you along with your opinions.
So this kind of came off the cuff of a post that we did earlier this week.
Yes.
So we posted about Ruby Rose deciding to leave Batwoman, the show, after the first season.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and in the post, I said, because I'm the one that put the post up, so it was totally me. But it was based on discussions that Vincent had with me, and so I knew he didn't feel differently than I did, so I felt like I was okay to post it for kind of in general for all of us. And so I said, it's kind of a good thing that she's going because she can't act.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, people blew that post up. And so we were having a discussion about it.
Well, I think some people assume that we're saying that because she's part of the LGBTQ community.
And
the actresses.
So that was the feeling that I got, and that was what I wanted to kind of bring up tonight, was it felt to me like people were coming to her defense because they felt like we were saying that because she's part of the LGBTQ community, she can't act, and therefore it makes it so that we are insensitive to that community. But I never saw it that way. It never had anything to do with it. I just think as an actress, she can't act.
No, we've seen it in Orange is the New Black, where she was on that. Not good at all. She was in John Wick 2.
Didn't even have a speaking part.
She didn't even have a speaking part, and she was horrible at that.
Which those parts are harder. You have to emote more when you don't have a speaking part, not less.
Yeah.
And you know, and then I bring up Kristen Stewart, and Kristen Stewart is also part of the LGBTQ community, but Kristen Stewart can't act. She's getting a little better as she's gone along, a little bit.
She was getting...
And
Ruby Rose was getting a little
better
better in the last 5 episodes of Batwoman.
A little bit better. She was getting a little bit better, but we were watching the show for Alice and for Mary. Not for Batwoman, not for the main character of the show.
No.
Because we didn't care. It was like when we watched Fear the Walking Dead. Excuse me. I could not watch that show with you because their acting was so bad. It was so unbelievable. I rooted for them to get eaten. It was that bad. Like, I was like, please, somebody eat them. Kill this character. Let it die. Let's move on.
I just don't think you like the characters.
The acting was terrible.
I don't think all of them were bad actors.
Like, who wasn't a bad actor in the original group?
The barber.
Okay, maybe.
He was good.
There was a couple, but overall, as a cast, I don't think they picked people that could act. That was just my personal opinion. I don't think they can act.
I think they could act. You just didn't like how they were acting the part.
Well, then maybe people think
is
that Ruby Rose can act and you just don't like the way she's acting the part.
No, because I've seen them in more things other than just that. I've seen her in many things where she wasn't good at any of those things, so she can't act.
Is that how that goes?
Yeah.
All I know is now that Fear the Walking Dead has a new cast, it's better.
It's not a new cast.
It's a mostly new cast.
The daughter's
Except
still
for the
there?
daughter.
Yeah,
But
the daughter.
The mom was a bad actress. Rabbit, I don't even remember that actor's name, but he was Rabbit on another show. He seems like a nice guy. He's not a great actor. The kid that was his son, not a great actor. Just not.
No. But it's a little bit harder for kids. You can kind of give them a pass.
No.
There's some great
I don't think
kid
you can give them a
actors.
pass because there are kids that are great.
but it's hard.
Is it really
They're
that
still
hard?
learning.
If you're an actor, you're an actor.
Well, not if you're a kid actor because you're just learning it. If you're an adult actor that you've been doing it for a while, you should know what you're doing. Ruby Rose has been acting for a while, so she should know what she's doing by now.
I think
She should have known after Orange is the New Black.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like the kid that plays Han Solo, seen him in a couple of things, and I thought, oh, this kid cannot act. Cannot act. Can't act. This is going to be terrible. And they got him acting lessons and kind of pulled him through and helped him and got a mentor, and he was much better in Solo than he was in previous things because he could not act. But I think one of the things we were going to talk about with diversity is because Batwoman is an LGBTQ character,
Right.
and we want it to be an LGBTQ actress who plays her, which I'm fine with, but they need to pick someone who's good for the job. You can't just pick her.
Right before you go, I'd like to give a shout out to Aiden that's watching it right now.
Hey.
He says, hi, hello. I'm the only one watching. And then Steve just popped up and says, hey, guys.
Hi, Steve. So it can't just be that we pick them because they've come out and expressed their sexuality. Acting is a different kind of job than other jobs. In acting, your job is to pretend, right? To pretend to be something else. And when we started with acting way back, like Shakespearean times and everything, when women were not allowed to do things,
Yeah,
it was
all the
men.
actors were men.
It was all men.
They played the...
And I realized before this, you know, people of color were portrayed by white actors and everything. And there was different things because acting is a different job. Your job as an actor is to pretend to be that character. So
because another thing came up during the same time with Robert Downey Jr. because it resurfaced that he was in Tropic Thunder, and like this is just like days that this is resurfaced.
Oh, really?
And they've been like getting upset with him because he in that movie he was playing in blackface. But that was the kind of the shtick about the
shtick, though.
Yeah, that was the kind of the shtick of it. He was an actor, a method
actor. So they were they were trying to poke fun at method actors in a way that, like, that's too method is what they were trying to say. Like, they could have picked a black actor. This is too method. It was supposed to be a play to make you more aware of it, not necessarily, you know, that he be in blackface or whatever.
Right.
You know. And blackface came about from a time
because
and a place.
It wasn't, he was playing an actor that was playing in blackface.
Yes. Yes.
Not necessarily
that Robert Downey Jr.
was playing the part.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to play a black man. He was
No.
trying to play a white man who was method acting as a black man. Yeah.
Right.
You know, and unfortunately, you know, blackface came at a time when people of color were seen as beneath whites, and they weren't getting the jobs and they weren't being put in there. And so it had its time and place and it needs to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all acknowledge that, and it needs to die. But when we go back and use it as comedy or something, we have to acknowledge that there are these times in our past as a species that we get to make fun of. I mean, there's that new movie that's a comedy about Nazis. Right?
Jojo.
Yeah, Jojo, what's it?
Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, Jojo Rabbit. Okay, probably not a cool thing to be a comedy, right?
Right.
Nazis, Nazi Germany, Hitler's your friend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But at some point we have to take the movie art form, the TV show art form, right? And we have to separate it from how we treat people.
But a lot of times, but it's not just that, because people look at things from just the surface. And if it has Hitler in it and it's a comedy, but is that what it's trying to portray? Is that what it's really about? Is it really about Hitler and it being funny?
And like Hitler's your pal or whatever, and it's funny. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know.
I don't think that's what they were going for.
Probably
with that.
not. But that's where we all
Charlie
jump
Chaplin played as a Hitler character in one of his things, but he wasn't trying to promote that, oh yeah, Hitler is great and this is funny. He was trying to kind of like make you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and so the thing is, it's hard in TVs and movie when we talk about diversity, because we need to move to a place where it's just that these casting directors can pick the best person to portray that role. Mm-hmm. I may be straight, but let's say I'm a great actress, which I'm not, but let's say I am. Maybe I can portray Batwoman. I don't mind online, on-screen kisses with other women, and I'm believable in them because it is my job to pretend that I am that. So if I'm better at it than this actress that comes along who is part of the LGBTQ community, then shouldn't I get the job because I'm better at the job? But I know that then people say, well, that's a slippery slope, because then if that's the case, then they won't have to hire any LGBTQ, or they won't have to hire any black actresses or any Mexican actresses or any Oriental actors or actresses. But some of those people with those ethnicities or sexualities are better actors than other people.
Because of the craft.
Or because of their craft.
Or they portray. Now, Ruby Rose, I think, personifies Batwoman in her looks.
Maybe. I like Ruby Rose as a model. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. I'd look at her all day, every day. I don't have a problem with that. I don't like her acting. We were trying to talk about, like, who would we want to see? And somebody had a really good idea. What is her
Teenage Negasonic Warhead.
Yeah, her from Deadpool. She's good. I don't know that Batwoman is. It depends, I guess, on what time in the timeline you are, on how young she is, or whatever. One of the things I really would like to see, which I think would just be hard on the actress herself, is the actress who plays Alice. Just because in this iteration, Alice and Batwoman are twins, and I already like the actress who plays Alice, I'd love to see her do Batwoman.
Yeah.
if we were going to go with somebody a little older and we wanted to go with somebody that's LGBTQ, I always liked the actress that played Callie in Grey's Anatomy.
Hildebrand. Her name was Hildebrand. The teenage.
Oh, the teenage nigga.
What was her first name?
Sean.
I just saw it.
Oh.
I just went over it.
Brianna.
Yeah. Brianna Hildebrand.
Yeah.
So, and she's part of the LGBTQ community as well.
And we've seen her act in Deadpool, and she can emote, right? Because she doesn't have very many lines in that, but she has nothing but attitude. And you see her give that. She has to act, really, really act, because she doesn't have the lines. She's giving him that attitude with her facial expressions, with her body language. So we know that she can emote and act.
Yeah.
Which I think when we're looking at a comic book character like Batwoman or something, we need somebody who's larger than life, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody who can bring those characteristics out and have those things be a little more showy. That attitude and that subtlety, right? That was the thing about Stephen Amell when he was Arrow. He had a subtlety about him where he didn't necessarily have to say stuff, but you knew where he was going. It's one of the things that I like with Grant Gustin as the Flash is he will say things with his face, with his body, that he doesn't have to have lines, and you know because you know who Barry's supposed to be as a character, and so you know where his thought process is going, and that's what we were missing a lot, I think, with Ruby Rose, is there's no depth to Batwoman.
No. It was basically what you saw is just what you got.
Yeah.
It wasn't deep at all.
It was
like at first it wasn't deep. Like I said, the last 5 episodes had really changed for her.
Gotten better.
But I don't think people liked her enough. From what I heard, she didn't really enjoy doing the part.
Well, and she got hurt. She had a serious injury, and I do feel bad for her for the injury. It's not like, I think, oh, haha, she was injured, and yay, let's get rid of her. It's not like that.
Now, we do have a comment in Facebook. Part of the problem, if not the entire problem, people have with diversity is that it isn't being put in genuine stories. It's being shoved into already established stories. Hollywood turned an era of inclusion into an era of invasion. So now diversity is a terrible word in fandoms. So,
yes and no, right? Yes and no.
Yes and no, because, and I even asked this of Stan Lee before he passed. Mm-hmm. And I was asking, why are you turning why are some of these characters being allowed to change their diversity? Like, you're changing the entire story by making something that they weren't originally. And he just kind of told me that throughout the years we got to change with the times. It's people are changing. Like, there's different generations that are going through that are more accepting of diversity than previous generations.
Well, and I think the change comes too with the writers, right? Because you can only, for most writers, you can only write from your own personal experience. You get the best
writing.
You get the best stuff from your personal experience, right? You can try to write outside of your realm. It's not very authentic, right? So when a new writer steps in, they want to bring in their authenticity. They want to bring in their lives, right? And so for some characters in the universes, when you have things like a Green Lantern, who it's a society, and you get the ring, and it could be anybody, that's fine. Spider-Man has done a really good job of
doing
there
diversity,
are many Spider-Mans like arching out. I don't see why Star Wars can't have diversity. That's one of the ones that people complain about. They complain about Rose, they complain about Finn. Star Wars is in a galaxy far, far away.
And I think even before that, where we got the diversity a long time ago in the 60s was Star Trek.
Yes.
That was the first time. That was the first time there was there was an interracial kiss on TV.
Because again, we're talking about a space adventure. So we're out in space, going to all these different planets, going to all these different galaxies, and you're saying everybody out there in a universe is a white male? Like, that's not how that works, right? So we do need to bring diversity in. Things with space involved, definitely easier to do. So let's do it, right? And as people get used to it, let's bring it in and let's make it more mainstream. I think another thing that people have a problem with, though, is they want to say, well, why are we redoing Ghostbusters with just an all-female cast, right? And a diverse female cast. Because we had a diverse male cast, you know, back when Ghostbusters first came out. So why do we need to redo it with females? Because females didn't get to see themselves in these roles, and we wanted to, and somebody was willing and somebody wanted to take that on and write it, because again, it's a story. It's not real. It's not based on real life. And we're not gender bending anybody that was, you know, it's a story. So each new writer that takes the story can take their liberties with it and give their spin, and then it's up to us as the receivers of those stories to either say, hey, I liked it that way and I'm going to go support it and watch it.
Right.
And it's going to grow. Or I don't like it that way and I'm not going to support it and watch it, and those types of things are not going to grow. So I can see diversity for like just shoving diversity in just to say, oh, I'm diverse. Right?
That's right. But here's the thing: if the LGBTQ community wants these things, they need to support these things that come out that are new, which they're not.
Well, they are.
Well, I mean they are, but they're not doing it in masses to be able.
Well, let me ask you as a Mexican American. So I don't see as many.
But you're not a Mexican American.
Mexican American people in fandom.
So you can't ask me as a Mexican American. No, I'm kidding. As me, yeah, I get you.
You're Mexican American.
Right.
You grew up in a time where there wasn't really any Mexican American heroes for you to idolize. You didn't see your culture very much in role-playing games or anything. We do have like a World of Darkness that has like La Llorona and Cucuy and Chupacabra, but it's not like Dungeons and Dragons, right? It's not in the forefront. It's not famous because people didn't pick it up because they don't necessarily understand the culture, the lore. So at some point, when do you feel like your culture needs to pick up that lore and stuff and say, hey, we need to start?
We got a little bit of it, and we were talking about this before, because kind of the first ones where kind of comics was born of, it was Zorro. And Zorro was Mexican. He was a Mexican landowner. And that was kind of the story. I was big on Zorro. I used to dress up Halloween as Zorro several times. But that was kind of my superhero-ish kind of thing. But after that, there wasn't any diversity like that. What do we have? El Diablo? And now they're starting to come out with stuff?
Now we're starting to see some, because again, we've got Green Lantern, we've got people in the Spider-Verse that can be, we've got a Ghost Rider. Which Ghost Rider totally makes sense, I think, as something that...
Oh, Ghost Rider in a car does not make sense. It's stupid.
I think it makes sense.
No, it doesn't matter what race he is. He's not on a motorcycle. He's not a Ghost Rider. Get out of the car.
He's got to be on. He was on a horse originally.
No, that one doesn't count.
Okay. So we could give the Vato, a motorcycle. He might be down.
Yeah, he'd be cool.
He'd be cool.
Mhm.
But the other thing that you and I were talking about is rather than jump in and try to change characters we already know, we're starting to see some of this with like the Young Avengers and stuff. If people would pick them up and enjoy them and read them and move forward with them, we're seeing the children of the characters that we know and love who are now, having personality, and mental illness is another thing that we haven't even talked about as far as diversity. But we're seeing them come out with mental illnesses. We're seeing them come out as LGBTQ. We're seeing more mixed races and mixed couples. But when you think about the fandom universe, it's made up, dude. It's made up. Like, Krees are not real. Jawas are not real. It's like these things are made up. So we have so much room to diversify. We shouldn't need to shove it in there and force it. It should be able to come fluidly, easily, and be authentic. But we need to get writers.
Right.
Who are willing to write the authentic stories and not people who are trying to make it seem authentic, because then I think that's when people don't buy it and pick it up and want it, because there is no
authenticity. Because let me just throw this in your face and do this is different. Take it. But you also got to see they're trying to sell something. If they're trying to sell something, they're trying to sell something to the masses, because that's what makes them money.
Right.
They're in the business of making money for this, not for not making money. If they're going to put something out that's not working and is not selling, why are they going to put out more? Right.
Well, and that's why I come back to, we need to see people that are within our groups, right? So females that are in fandom, we need to be out there finding the strong female characters, buying the things that are important to us. We need to support them so that they will continue to make them. As a Mexican American, if you're out there and you want more that's like has your lore in it, or things that you find important, when you find them out there, you have to support them if they're good. And then we come back to if they're good, right? So this topic is so multifaceted, and people want to streamline it down to one thing, and it's not. It can't be. It's not possible for diversity to be one. It's not one simple thing. It's not one evil thing.
Because even when you're looking at like Superman is different now than he was when he originally came out. But the Superman, very, very, he spoke out on diversity way back in the day. So, there's a lot of changes that are happening. It takes time to get there.
Well, I know, just like on Supergirl, when she first came out, people had a problem with Jimmy Olsen being black. Well, Jimmy Olsen's not black. He's not black. Who says he's not? It's a made-up story.
Yeah.
He's whatever actor came in, did the best job, and fulfilled what we needed for that character.
Now, I'm sure they first said something about Nick Fury. But now they've turned it into the comic where he's that same character.
Well, because, Samuel L. Jackson, so come on. Talk about somebody who can act. He could be anything. He could be anything, and you could believe him as anything.
Like Snakes on a Plane.
No, he just plays the same character in all his films.
He plays the same character in all his films.
Just like Ryan Reynolds does. And
Ryan Reynolds is so
I think that's
hot.
what Ruby Rose's problem is. She plays Ruby Rose in all the films. That's what I think. She plays her persona, the model. She's got no range.
She doesn't have range.
No, she doesn't have
range.
Or
she doesn't have the director that can push her.
Yeah. When you think of an actor, or an actress who has range, Who do you think has range, Stuart?
Who has range?
I think Tom Hanks has range.
Well, I'll tell you somebody who has range, but also plays herself a lot. When she plays herself a lot, it's awful. Cher. She has a really good range, but when she's just playing Cher, she's awful.
I loved her in Mask. Oh, that's one of my favorite
But you
movies
talk
of all
about
time.
Ryan Reynolds. If you've ever seen the movie Buried, you're probably going to change your mind.
I don't know. Does he sound like Pikachu?
No,
No.
he's really good in that. It makes me want to throw up. That movie is really awful. I think he's good. He does romantic comedies really well. I don't know.
No, he just plays himself.
I loved him
Romantic
in Two Guys, a Girl, in a Pizza Place. So hot. He's always so hot. Stupid Blake Lively. Anyway. But I believed that actor as Jimmy Olsen. He was Jimmy Olsen because he acted the part well. You know, I struggled with Supergirl at first.
He
too.
became Jimmy Olsen for me.
Yeah.
But at first, not saying anything that he was a person of color. That aside, when he first came on, just he was too strong a character at first, and I wasn't used to that because Jimmy Olsen is, you know, a bumbling photographer.
Kind of mamby-pamby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little concerned when it first came on because I thought, for me, I saw Supergirl as a chance for it to be a female-driven show, right?
Mhm.
Which I thought that was where they were kind of going, and I think they've done a good job doing that. But I was concerned about him being on there and kind of taking over the show.
Mhm.
But I never thought that he did that. I thought that he did a good job and he kind of stayed in his lane. And I think that everybody who's been on that show has kind of stayed in, as far as the males that have been on that show,
Right.
have kind of stayed in their lane and done their thing. You know, I was really worried about Lex coming on because he's a good Lex Luthor. He's a good Lex Luthor.
Who would have ever thought John Cryer, Ducky, was going to be a good Lex Luthor?
Never in a million. When I first saw them advertise that, I thought, this fool. No, this is another mistake they've made in fandom. This idiot.
No.
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 No, he's so good as Lex.
He's so bad.
And I thought, you know, he's really going to steal the show, but no. He's
well,
good.
He does steal the show.
But not to the point where I still love Lena.
Mm-hmm.
You still love Supergirl. You still love Dreamer. You still root for Alex, right? Which, and I was concerned about Alex too because I loved her on Grey's Anatomy. And I thought I'm never going to be able to not see her. I guess that's how I judge a good actor.
But you didn't even realize when we were first watching it. I was like, you know, that's Little Grey, right?
Right. And once you told me, I was like, well, now I'm never going to be able to see
her.
But I think
But now, I don't think you see her.
Not at all. Not even a little bit. And I think that's one of the ways I gauge a good actor, actress, is if I'm watching them in their current role, do I keep defaulting back and wish they were that other character they were before, or do I really believe them in this role as this character?
Right.
So.
Now, let's touch on, like, mental illness in fandom.
It's still, I find that it's still something that we tend to antiquate with villains a lot, right? Mm-hmm. The villain is, you know, manic depressive. The villain is a sociopath or a psychopath or whatever, which obviously psychopaths and sociopaths are usually villains, but not all of them. You know? Some of them just lead lives and they take their meds and they do their normal thing and they go to their therapist and they're okay. They have been allowing more for like panic disorders, depression. They did a real big depression story arc with Matt Murdock in Daredevil.
The entire Joker movie.
Yeah. But again, he's a villain, so we see his mental illness as something that drives him to villainy.
But was it all just in his head?
Oh, sorry.
But was it all just in his head, and was he never a villain to begin with?
I got some...
I love that. It kind of tripped me out at the end.
There's an IMDb clip talking about Denzel being Magneto. but they're going to change his backstory to fit. I don't think that'll work. That's one of the things I think they're pushing that shouldn't be, because he's from Germany, isn't he?
Jewish.
He's Jewish.
Yeah, I don't think they should do that.
Because that kind of makes...
That negates another diversity that we kind of need.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and like we said, some of these established characters, right? Magneto is, and that's Magneto's backstory. So let's leave Magneto who Magneto is. There's got to be other characters that we can find, that we can have, that are people of color, that we don't have to change the backstory for characters.
Or just create new characters.
Or create new ones, young ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite one's Static Shock.
Static Shock
Yeah.
is your favorite?
That was that was one of the first ones that I saw. Hey, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Static Shock was a good one. And then even watching, you don't watch it all that much, but I do, Black Lightning, which is a really good one.
I like Black Lightning, and I like the oldest daughter, but the youngest daughter gets on my nerves.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, like, I watch it, but
It's
only
like
part.
that millennial thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's real whiny, and it's like I've been at school with students all day long, and I can't listen to her. It's not like Black Lightning himself, or it's not. He and his oldest daughter are badass, and I love them, but it's that youngest daughter that I'm like, I can't listen. And Khalil got on my nerves too.
Yeah.
He was too much of a millennial. Actually, they're not millennials, though. I think they're Gen Z or whatever.
Gen Z.
Whatever. They're kind of annoying, too.
They're all younger than us. So
Anybody who's
They're-
younger
they're
than
all
us
younger
is
than
annoying.
us,
Everybody
so-
younger than us, get off our lawn.
Get off our lawns. But yeah, so I would like to see mental illness not just something that villains have. I know they've written a few things in, and I know, again, it comes back to who the writer is. So when Matt Murdock had his whole series with the depression, it was because it was something that his writer had gone through.
For Daredevil.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so his writer was able to authentically write that into the story and talk about that struggle, and it became authentic and it was good. So again, it can't just be diversity for the sake of diversity. It has to be to spread some kind of message, and it's okay to have depression, and it's okay to have anxiety.
Yeah. Well, and then you have like Legion.
Which Legion was specifically made as a character with dissociative identity disorder, because each of those identities is a different kind of superhero, supervillain, anti-hero, whatever they end up being, right? So that's an interesting twist. There's not a whole lot of research on DID. There's not a whole lot of people out there with it. So that's a mental illness that...
So you have that one. You have Rorschach. Trying to get
Rorschach. I mean, his name is Rorschach. So, hello.
So yeah, come on, that's a big one.
So yeah, I think we need to continue to try. We just need to do it more effectively.
Right.
And it needs to be okay that actors can be in jobs because they're just the best actor for the job. Mm-hmm. That was kind of where I wanted to go with all of this.
Write good stories.
Write good
stories.
Write good stories.
Make
and
it make
the
it
story,
make
read
sense.
the story and support the story and pay for the story so that they'll write more good stories.
Mm-hmm.
Don't shovel with stuff like Wrinkle in Time. That was awful.
It was awful.
Because I know we've mentioned this before. If you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
Don't do it just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, no.
You've got to make it good. So Hollywood, make better stuff.
Make better stuff.
Hollywood can't make better stuff. They're done.
They're done.
Well,
Netflix and...
I think for diversity, Disney's doing a great job.
No, not quite, but they're getting there.
I think they're getting there. I think they've tried.
I think they're doing better than everybody else.
I think they've been trying for longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For
but
a lot
again,
longer.
they let white males try to write people of color, and it doesn't really work. So they need to get better at that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. But thanks for checking us out. If you haven't subscribed to us, click on that subscribe button and click that alert button so you can find out the next time we come out live.
Videos that I'm making.
Yeah, you should. Well, you have 2 channels.
No. I mean, I'm not promoting my other channel. I mean, like the comic book one. I worked really hard on that to show everybody what I did, like to craft with comic books, and I only have like 16 views on it. So.
You know what you need to do? Huh. Make a TikTok out of
it. Do it on TikTok. Yeah.
On TikTok.
Do it. But thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. I'm Vince.
I'm Colleen, and that's Stuart over there.
Geek out, SA.